I'm feeling a little prophetic too there. I'm
Yeah,
feeling
man.
a little prophetic.
Yeah, man.
I think you initially made the prediction, in fairness, because in the clip that was me. I made the prediction. That was a lot of me making some prophetic predictions there, because UConn didn't come out of your mouth. But in fairness, I think you were the first one to say your prediction would be UConn,
Yeah.
South Carolina in the national championship
Right
this year. It
before
might
that,
be in
I
a
think
separate part of that, but
what happened right before we got to the beginning of that is I said that I think that we'll get UConn, South Carolina, but I don't think there's a team in the country that was going to stop this team from getting back. So here we are. We are potentially on the precipice of both of us being correct about a UConn, South Carolina national championship. Before we get into the UConn component of this, I do want to ask you a question about UCLA, right? Because for most of the season, UCLA, led by Lauren Betts, up until the USC game when Juju went off the first one, Lauren Betts, I thought, was the best player in the country up to that point. She was likely leading the National Player of the Year conversation at that point as well. And UCLA was obviously undefeated. Since then, you and I have kind of, and you kind of started it, you and I have put an emphasis on needing to see more from Kiki Rice. I mentioned needing to see more from Janiah Barker if UCLA was going to actually get to the national championship and, for what I believe would be the first time in school history, I think. When you look at this UCLA team, you look at the UConn matchup, right? Is this a matchup that still hinges on whether or not Kiki Rice is effective in your mind? Because we know that Paige is going to be effective. We know Sarah Strong is going to be effective. We expect AZ to be effective, especially the way that she ended the game a couple nights ago. Kiki Rice she's come up a little bit, but I don't think she still had that game. She hasn't had that game yet in the tournament. Can UCLA, do you think, win this game if Kiki Rice isn't the Kiki Rice that we expect her to be based upon what she was earlier on in her collegiate career?
no, I mean, unless London Jones and Kiki Rice collectively can make life difficult for Paige Bueckers, which is going to be really hard to do because she may be playing the best basketball of her career right now. You can probably expect she's going to play well. You've got to match that on the other end, and not just with your big inside. Like, you've got to match guard for guard. You've got to have a guard on the other side that is putting pressure on UConn. Paige and AZ, we know what they can do. AZ is kind of more dependent on like knocking down outside shots, but like even when she's 0 for 8, as we saw in the last game, they will run an elevator screen for her and go right to her in the first play of a fourth quarter. So they're going to keep going to her. No, I don't think UCLA can win this game without the signature game from Kiki Rice that I've said they're going to need to make a run. Even though Lauren Betts has been so dominant that like she's dominant enough where she could dominate UConn enough to win this game. I think she's
I
that
agree.
dominant where if they are force feeding her, if they are getting her the right looks, it could be enough to beat UConn. Lauren Betts has been that good and that dominant, in my opinion. UConn and Gino, they are just too smart, and I think they're going to be all over her, and they're going to force the guards to play better, and they're going to make it so they're not going to let Lauren Betts just dominate them and beat them. Maybe they take the approach of like, let Lauren Betts go off, but don't let anyone else eat. But I tend to think they're going to do doubling, a lot of digging, getting the ball out of her hands. So I think this is the game where you need really good guard play.
I agree with you. I mean, look, Lauren Betts has had 3 straight games where she's taken at least 14 shots. She took 17 shots in the second round in the Sweet 16, 16 shots in the Elite 8, and obviously 14 shots in the last game they played. She's shot at least 50% in all of those. Like, she has been on another level.
Yeah.
And when you look at what UCLA does when Lauren Betts takes at least even 15 shots, just add an additional shot, they win those games more often than not pretty handily. So you talked about Madison Booker needed to take 20 shots against South Carolina and how the last 2 times that she did take 20 shots, it was in wins over South Carolina and Tennessee. If UCLA can get Lauren Betts to take 15 shots and she's effective with those shots, which she is more often than not, that could be a recipe for success. But I do agree with you, though, with the way that I texted you this the other day. Paige Bueckers is playing the best basketball of her life.
Since her freshman year. Since
since her
this
freshman
is the
year.
closest we've seen since National Player of the Year freshman year, Paige.
And it's great to see, because you and I talked about a couple months ago when we talked about whether or not Paige was overrated. You had mentioned the fact that Paige's game felt a little bit different because of the toll that all the lower body injuries had taken on her and how she missed so much time. And yet you look up and you know, I believe I saw something, she's like 5th all-time scorer in NCAA tournament history. She's the 3rd all-time leading scorer in program history, despite playing 20 less games, I think, than everyone else that's on that list. And obviously she had 40 points the other night. Like she's been going crazy. And I said this to you the other day, and this has been my big thing with Lauren Betts all season. I do think that Lauren Betts is, I don't want to use the word generational, but I think that she's played transcendent enough this season where UCLA could win this game off the strength of just Lauren Betts.
Yeah.
They could.
Yeah.
That should not be the game plan, though, to just force feed Lauren Betts.
Not against a team like UConn.
Not against a team.
They're going to take that away. Like, but again, unless they feel like they can let her go off and just not let anyone else eat, they may take that approach.
But the other thing too is, if the approach is, you know, if Lauren Betts does go off, the flip side of that is, because they can win the game that way. But if Lauren Betts is going to dominate,
that's probably not a good thing.
They have to be the most defensively sound they have been all season. If just Lauren Betts is going to be what takes them over the top and win this game, right? Because you mentioned with Paige playing as well as she's been playing, with Azzy Fudd playing the way, or Azzy playing the way that she's been playing. Obviously, Sarah Strong has been playing well as well and been coming on. We're going to play a clip for her in just a second as well. I mean, even Audrey Griffin towards the end of that game came off the bench and played some key minutes for them. Caitlin Chen as well, same thing. Like they are getting, like it's not just Paige and Azzy and Sarah. Like they're getting a little bit from those key role players as well. So when you talked about retooling last season, it seems like this retool job and this I don't want to call it a rebuild, but everyone's back healthy, and this retooling for UConn has worked to success. So it's not just Paige and Azzy and Sarah that UCLA is going to have to focus on if they want to win this game and make it to the national championship.
True, and we talked about, like, when we kind of picked apart UConn a little bit a couple months before they blew out South Carolina. We had questions about UConn's identity. Are they getting a little soft? They weren't showing as much toughness. Even Gino was alluding to it. They got their toughness back.
Absolutely.
Caitlin Chen, Aubrey Griffin, like the way they're playing, the confidence of Paige, the confidence of Sarah Strong, they're playing tough. Caitlin Chen, like they found their toughness again. So that I think this is gonna be a really good game, I think, because UCLA has some toughness. They have big guards, right? They have size. So I think this is going to be a really good game. But I think where UConn has really found their edge is that they've found their toughness.
Yeah. Really quick, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to focus on Sarah Strong just a little bit. But we just want to say real quick, thank you to everyone that's watching. Please free to stay tapped in with us as we talk about this last part of the Final Four before we get out of here. If you're watching on the playback, we appreciate you. Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments below.
Sarah Strong is becoming the story at UConn. I don't know if you watched that game. Sarah Strong does whatever she wants, bro. They apparently are trying to explain to Sarah Strong how good she is. Like they're trying to introduce to her how good she actually is, because bro, it felt like every possession I saw Sarah Strong doing something, it was effortless, it was strong, it was smooth, off the bounce, driving the ball, passing the ball, shooting the ball. She was their biggest matchup advantage against Notre Dame, and at times looked like just their best player. So the main thing I want people to take away from that clip, the Protect Our Queens podcast will continue, and people like Nick Andre over on the Best W show do a great job of this too. But we will put you on to these players beforehand. That's the main thing. That was in December. Yeah. And, you know, I got people texting me now like, yo, who's the girl Sarah Strong? Yo, who's the girl at Texas? Yo, who's the girl at this? I'm like, hey, man, tap into the Protect Our Queens podcast. We got you. We tell you in advance that these players are coming. So just as a heads up, like we told you this Sarah Strong thing. And I had a clip that I was spending hours trying to find from when I first talked about Sarah Strong, like in the summer. Yeah. When I saw highlights of her in high school and playing in the FIBA 3-on-3 thing, I'm like, hold on. Are y'all not seeing who this girl is that's coming to UConn? So trust me, we got you here. We got you. If you pay attention, you'll hear some names that in 6 months' time you'll be like, oh, that's who they were talking about. So Sarah Strong, you see everything I said in that clip. Is
Dude,
it not, Marcus? You've watched
yes,
for more now. Has it not
absolutely. I mean,
manifest
we're
spot
talking about
on?
I'm watching the USC game the other night, and it's like every time Sarah Strong does something, it's like the first time it's happened in a quarter of a century. She's got the most double doubles in a tournament in the quarter of a century. She's got the most. She joined Maya Moore as the only other freshman to get 600 points. I'm like, just
Yeah, yeah.
Sarah Strong.
And isn't that
Sarah
crazy?
Strong,
Because that includes Paige Bueckers, who was
it
the
includes
National
Paige.
Player of the Year her freshman year, and she didn't even get to
He
600
didn't get to
points. The
600.
last one to do it was Maya Moore. Go ahead.
The last thing I'll say, and I'll let you take it away because this is you've been championing this the whole way. The first thing I thought of when Olivia transferred, and you and I were talking about it, was you sent me that tweet that had UConn's name in it. For my sanity, for my sanity,
Probably for Muffet McGraw's sanity too.
for Muffet
Drive me
McGraw's
nuts.
sanity, please, Olivia Miles, whatever you do, don't go to UConn.
But see, but you saying that really makes it like that's where she should go. Because if she plays with Sarah Strong, that would be crazy.
The country won't be able to handle it. You know how unfair that would be for Paige to go number one, and then they just replace her with Olivia, and we know that AZ's coming back, and they'll still have Sarah Strong. How unfair that would be to the. It makes me think about how it's like the San Antonio Spurs, right? Every year they have a rough year. They get the number one overall pick. First was David Robinson, then it's Tim Duncan, then it's Victor Wembanyama. Now they're trying to go get Cooper Flag. Like let's save some fun. Let's save some fun. Let's save some good basketball juju for the rest of us. For the sake of my sanity, please, Olivia Miles, do not go to UConn. That would be.
Yeah, I mean that would I not to go back to Liv, but that would be a slap in the face. Like that would be a slap in the face to Niele Ivey, to Muffet McGraw, to Notre Dame. That would be a very choice decision. So I don't think you have anything to worry about there. I would love to see it from a basketball standpoint, but I feel where you're coming from. But yeah, forget the stats and the records and accolades. Just watch the basketball. Sarah Strong she's unstoppable. I don't even know who to compare her to anymore. She's unstoppable, bro. Her matchup with Kiki Iriafen, that's the main matchup I wanted to see in that game. Kiki Iriafen started out great in the first few minutes, and then she was dreadful the rest of the game. Sarah Strong won that matchup by a mile, and she's a freshman. Kiki Iriafen is getting drafted into the WNBA in 2 weeks. Yeah. Sarah Strong won that matchup by a mile. What I love about Sarah Strong watching her, she has such a calm demeanor, just a humble demeanor about her. And I mean, I love players who are talk trash. Angel Reese, a little more vocal, a little more like loud about it. Like I love players like that too. But I also love players who are just very like calm killers. And that's what Sarah Strong is, because she goes about her business, keeps like the same facial reaction pretty much the whole time. But like she still plays with motor. She still plays with strength. And most of all, she plays with IQ. When UConn went to that 2-man game on the one side with Paige and Sarah Strong just down the stretch against USC, Gina was just like, yeah, get out. Go. You go to that side. You go to Paige right here. 2-man game right here. Run it. Get what you want, because Paige can step behind, shoot the three. We know what she can do in the midi. And then Sarah Strong as a roll, as a popper. You have every option available with that 2-man game with Paige and Sarah Strong. My brother said it to me because we've been following UConn since we were kids as young Rutgers fans in the old Big East, going to the rack and seeing Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi come to town and watching old UConn. My brother was like, and I was introducing him to Sarah Strong during the game. I'm like, yo, that's the girl. That's the freshman I told you about. He was like, man, Gino always brings a new one in, doesn't he? Paige may be on her way out. And I had a theory years ago that Paige would be the last hurrah for Gino. I thought he might bow out after Paige. If they win a natty, I don't think he's done yet, but I will be interested to see, because that'll be such a big story if they're able to win the natty. And they haven't won it. Like, it's been South Carolina, LSU, Baylor, it's been a while since UConn has been back on top. So I'll table that for now, but he's got Sarah Strong. I tend to think when you're a coach and you see the other girl out there, it's like, man, maybe I will stick around a few more years because I still got Sarah Strong. Man, that girl is special. She's so good. She is so good at basketball, bro. Her shooting touch. Like, do you see her 3-ball? Do you see how beautiful her jump shot is? How strong she is and just how she operates? Great passer too, by the way. Can make plays, You can tell that some players, you have to coach the unselfishness out of them. You have to coach them to be more selfish.
Yeah.
And that's what they were saying during the USC game, is that Gino was telling her before the game, shoot around, going through their actions. He's like, hey, you get it there. Well, we go. Don't pass up that shot. Nope. Don't make that skip pass. Don't make that. Nope. That's your, like, we're in the phase now where you got to go ahead and take that shot, because she's the type where almost any shot she takes is going to be a good shot for her, because she's smart and she's not going to take crazy shots. But also, if she takes a crazy shot, she's the kind of player you want taking a crazy shot, because she can do anything, bro. She's so good. She is so good from all spots on the floor.
So she won her matchup against Kiki. Do you think she'll win her matchup against Lauren Betts?
Well, I don't think that's as much of her matchup as Kiki was, because that's more of a power forward. That's more of a forward thing. Lauren is going to be a collective effort. I think they're going to use El Alfie a lot against. I think they're going to have their biggest bodies in there against Lauren Betts. And like I said, I think they're going to be doubling and digging a good amount and not playing her one-on-one. The question is, like, well, what is Lauren Betts going to, if UConn goes small with Sarah Strong at the 5, that will be interesting, because then she will match up with Lauren, but Lauren's going to have to match up with her too. And that's where the Sarah Strong matchup nightmare starts to come to play. So that'll be interesting to see how big or small UConn goes in this game.
I think the thing for me that was most impressive, I mean, there's a lot of things that's been very impressive about Sarah Strong, but what's been most impressive for me with her, and you mentioned the 2-man game, it's just how effective it is, right? Like it's down the stretch of the USC game, right? I think we went into half and USC was down 10, and it was their largest halftime deficit in a while. I don't remember the exact number, but it's been a minute since they were down double figures. They come into the third quarter and they kind of keep it close and they kind of stay attached going to the fourth. And you see in the fourth quarter, just time after time again, as you mentioned, Gino's on the sideline, like, nope, yep, I want Paige and I want Sarah on the same side. And it worked. It worked every single time. And no matter what you do, you can't stop it. And when you look at the USC team, right? You look at that USC team, they've got Kennedy Smith, they had Avery Howe. I can't think of her first name, but you got Heckle out there as well. Like defensively, they're a pretty sound team defensively, our USC, when it comes to, the guards. And it makes me think with UCLA, like going back to the Kiki Rice point, going back to the London Jones point as well, like are they going to be able to handle even playing that defensively? Like we talked a little bit at the top about, like, if they're going to be able to handle just guarding Paige defensively or guarding AZ, like, are they going to be able to handle moments in the game? Because it works so well that Gino's going to go to it through the course of the game, but especially when they really, really need the shot. How is UCLA going to be able to manage that? Because that in of itself, forget all the the other people I mentioned. Forget about Caitlin Chan and Griffin and all the others for just a second. Just that Paige and Sarah Strong on the same side of the floor together, running the 2-man game. That will likely be the undoing of UCLA in this game if UConn picks up early on, that they don't have a way to stop that. Yeah. And so that's why I go back to and say again, like, it can't just, like, having Lauren Betts dominate sounds good. But if that's the case, then defensively, UCLA has to be the most defensively sound they've been throughout the entire season, because that is a handful to worry about individually, but it's even more of a handful to worry about when they're playing that 2-man game on the same side of the floor together, because it just works so well. It's like the most unstoppable piece of their offense, it seems like, for UConn. Like it's going to be really interesting to see for me. For me, the thing I'm most interested in is how UCLA plays that defensively and how they handle that.
Yeah, but I think the hardest thing about that is, like, figuring out what Paige is going to do, because she's such a smart player and she's so confident now that, like, she's starting to, like, find openings where she's just taking, for lack of better term or language, F it shots. She's just putting it up there. So I don't think she's not second guessing. If she sees a little slip, if you go under, she's taking that step back. She's just letting it go behind the 3-point line. So when you say, like, how do you guard that? I think you got to stay attached to Paige. I'm getting a little detailed basketball wise, but you can't go under. You got to try to stay attached. And you got to stay attached to Sarah Strong. To me, a Gardner, I think, is going to be the main matchup for Sarah Strong. That's just, it's tough, man, because they can both, between Paige and Sarah, they can both shoot from anywhere. They can both play make. They can make close shots. They can make medium shots. They can make long shots. So that 2-man game is really, they probably are going to be going to that a lot. But I I would need more time to really talk about how they're going to defend it, but no, I think the toughest thing with it is Paige, because she's so confident with her shot making right now
Mm-hmm.
from all three levels, and so the way she's shooting, how confident she is when she finds that opening, that's what's going to make it tough. And that's what's going to put pressure on UCLA guards to be productive offensively. If Lauren Betts is dominating and is in a rhythm like that, that's what makes UCLA tough, because it takes pressure off of others on UCLA to have to score or do too much, because you're going through Lauren. It alleviates pressure. It creates, passing. Gabriela Jaquez gets a lot of shots off of Lauren Betts kicking out from down low. So like things open up for other players if Lauren Betts is dominating. But when things open up, you still have to deliver. You still got to hit those shots. You still got to find those driving lanes on the kickouts. So it's still on the guards to capitalize, even if Lauren Betts is, playing really well, because the guards are going to have to put some pressure on UConn, because UConn's guards are going to be doing what they do, starting with Paige.